Hello and welcome to another episode of the Barnsley Startup MeetUp podcast. With me, your host Matt Roberts as usual. With me today is Matt Rollinson from Rolley. It is Rolley, isn't it?
It is. Well, it is and it isn't. So I say Rolley.
Okay, Rolley.
So,
okay. Is that because you say Rollinson?
Yes.
Okay.
So my mum and dad. So this probably isn't useful for the podcast, but my mum and dad always say Rollinson.
Okay.
My brother says Rollinson. So between us, I say one, he says another. It's whatever you want it to be. But yeah, I do say Rolley. But yeah. So hi, my name's Matt. I'm from Rolley.
Awesome, thanks. So you're going to be doing the talk for the event tomorrow, the Startup Meetup event tomorrow, which is our first lunch and learn. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of changes the dynamic in terms of people in the room. It's all about Headless CMS, which is something that is core to your business, I think, and so we'll get stuck into that in a little bit. But for the moment, do you want to just give us a little bit of background about yourself and how you got into business, why you started your own business?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the web space now for about 10-12 years. Previously I worked for a communications company that specialised in pensions communications, so it was building pension portals for their members, you know, the sort of calculation tools you'd expect in a pension portal and all that sort of good stuff. That's where my background kind of is, and then from there we kind of decided to branch out, start our own company up that still specialises in those sort of more bespoke web tools, so things like your configuration tools, your calculators, your modelling tools, your portals, all that sort of stuff. But we had the great opportunity to work alongside my brother, who's the other co-founder, and he specialises in games development. So that's kind of where we bring all those stuff together, so we can kind of do the 3D configuration tools and really more in-depth sort of AR, VR, game applications all native to the web. That's the sort of thing that we do at Rolley. We can obviously do the website sort of stuff as well, but we think that we really add more value if it's the sort of more complicated web builds. That's what we like to specialise in, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was the motivation behind starting your business?
So I've always liked to kind of do things my own way a little bit, and I was working for another company, a great company in Hull, and a few things I kind of thought, if that was me in charge, I'd do it a little bit differently, or I'd try this, or I'd try that. And then it kind of came to the pandemic, and I think me and my brother both kind of was like, you know what? We're not married yet. I'm now married with a kid, but yeah, we weren't married. We didn't really have any dependencies and stuff. He was like, you know what, we should really try it now. It's a perfect time. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, we'll just have to, get another job. But we were kind of, we knew kind of what we could do. We knew there was a bit of a niche in it. So we thought, you know what, we'll give it a go. We started in the pandemic, and now we've been going strong for 3 years, looking to take on our 5th staff member, still growing and stuff like that. So yeah, small company, but we're trying to grow naturally, and that's kind of
organically. So you're still bootstrapped then? You had no kind of external investment?
No external investment. It's just all what we kind of put in to start with, and then go on from there. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Congrats on growing the business to where you've got it to so far. It's not an easy feat, right? It is what appears to be straightforward and simple on the outside actually takes a lot of effort and takes a lot of work and sleepless nights on the
inside. It really does. Yeah.
So what's that dynamic like between you and your brother? Like, have you got both a very similar outlook in terms of where you want the business to go and how you want it to grow?
Yeah, so we've got very, very similar outlook. We do have our little disagreements, our little wobbles and stuff, but to say we both have a very similar sort of outlook on life, how we approach problems and stuff like that. So we more often than not, we are on the same page, and if we're not, then we've also got Dan, who's another director in Rolley, to kind of keep us on the straight and narrow and kind of make us focus on what is more important. So I think it kind of works well with 3, because if 2 are outvoting 1, then it's kind of an obvious path that we need to go with that. So that's how we resolve things, but often than not, we're all on the same page, and we're just trying to push forward to grow the business, really.
That's interesting. Do you think you would have started the business if it was just you? Like, would you have eventually started your own business, or was it kind of accelerated by your brother being in a similar position and being able to get started in the pandemic?
Yeah. So the whole idea behind Rolley was, so a bit of background about Rolley. That's my online pseudonym. That's my name I always play games with and stuff like that.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I originally started Rolley because I thought it was just kind of going to be me doing a bit more freelancing stuff. But at the time, when I said, right, actually, I'm going to really try for this, Chris was in a very similar position and was like, actually, I'll join you. And obviously, we've got the same surname from Rollinson to Rolley.
Yeah.
It kind of worked as a name for both of us.
Okay.
I would have started...
Just on that, though, like, what... for the hundreds of thousands of listeners and watchers, viewers, what games can they find you on? Have you got? Are you on Games Pass? Are you like an Xbox or PlayStation?
I'm actually a PC gamer now.
Yeah.
I used to play Formula 1 on the PlayStation, but now I've got a little 2-year-old. I don't get much time. So the one game that I do, I even carve it out on a Sunday night. I said to my wife, sorry, 7:30 Sunday night, it's Dota time, which is an online MOBA that you can play. So Chris also plays, a few other friends, and 5 of us just get on. We have a bit of a laugh. We do a bit of a shouting at each other and have a bit of fun. So that's where if anyone wants to add me on Dota, they can.
Absolutely, you know his gamer tag now. It's all good. Yeah. So I cut you off mid-flow, but I'm always interested by the kind of dynamic of, because there is a hard stat that is, I can't remember the exact statistic, but overwhelmingly co-founded businesses and startups are more likely to still be around after year 1, after year 5 than independently or individually started startups. And so I'm really intrigued by that kind of dynamic and how that plays out really, I guess. And do you think that that's the same for you and your brother in terms of, has it made you more sort of sticky, more likely to stick at it and give you more motivation?
I think so, yeah, because touching on that previous point, if it was me, obviously I'm very motivated to do it, but when you've got another co-founder and you're bouncing off ideas off each other, I think that's what really does push me forward, because I'll be like, oh, this idea for this website's great, and then Chris will be like, oh yeah, but if actually we do a little bit of 3D here, you can convey your message so much better. And then I'm like, oh, that's really cool, I want to do that. And we're bouncing off each other and stuff like that. That's great. And then since about 4 or 5 months in, Dan also came to join us, and he's a fantastic person at putting his ideas in as well. So when all 3 of us are in the room, it's just ideas are just flying, and that's what really does motivate me, because I want to achieve the best I can for the client projects that we're working on. And if we can do cool things along the way, then it's even better, isn't it? So that's kind of what we want to do.
So that's interesting then. So after 4 or 5 months, was it a conscious choice from yourselves to say, we need someone to come in, we need Dan to come in? Did you know Dan from previously, or?
Yeah, so we've worked together in the previous pensions company, so we've worked together quite a bit. Myself and Dan got put on a task force to go out to Australia to build a development team out there. So we've done a very similar thing for a different company in Australia, in Melbourne, in the city centre. So we actually loved that time, and fantastic. So I've known Dan for quite a while. To be honest, there's only 2 Rollinsons, but he's like the 3rd Rollinson. We all get on so well and stuff. I tried to make him change his name legally to join Rollinson, to join Rolley, but he weren't having any of it. So apparently I can't enforce.
Not even double barrel.
Yeah, I can't enforce that in contracts. Who knew?
It's just unbelievable. Where's the dedication to the cause?
I know. So hopefully if he's watching, he gets an idea that he needs to go out and sort that ASAP.
I believe they have. I can't remember what day. There's a month, isn't there, where it's actually supposed to be cheaper to change your name by deed poll or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think they were offering it. This was years and years ago. My wife, one of her best friends, changed her name while she was at university because they were offering out this offer of changing your name by deed poll for free, which seems like a really irresponsible thing to offer to university age students who have not been out of school very long.
You can see some interesting things happening, on Friends, and I'm not sure if this will make it, but when she changes her name to Shitbag, he changes his name to Shitbag, and she's Princess Banana Hammock and stuff like that. So I bet they had some interesting names from Depop being submitted.
Absolutely.
But I'll also tell him about that fact that it's cheaper. That might persuade him one day.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's it's September or something like that. I'm sure maybe that's Create a Will month. I don't don't know. That seems
both interesting. I need to do that one as well. So actually, that's still very useful for me.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving swiftly on.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's really interesting. And what I quite like, and what I'm really interested about is that kind of mixture of game and 3D and productivity, really. Like, so on your website, you've got like a little kind of mini game on the front page. Do you get many people playing that? Does that give you many stats in terms of how people interact with your website, or is it like, does it draw people in?
Yeah, so it is interesting. One of the first things that people say to me when they go on the website is, "Oh, I played the game," and originally, to be truthful, we kind of just shoved it up there because we didn't know what else to put in that space. But we did all the things you'd expect, so we can track who's playing it, how many times, how long, and all that sort of stuff. So we can track that, and it does get played a lot more than I'd kind of expect it, especially for a little like simple Simon Says game. But yeah, so many people do play it. And they love it apparently. So we are in the kind of the middle of rebranding our website, but from that, everyone's saying, "Oh, I love it." We're still going to have a game in the top right now. I feel like we can't rebrand and not have a game. But that is exactly what we did. And we were just sat around and like, we'd love a little game. We've got the Rolley. We used to play the Simon Says, we used to play that. And within like half a day, we had a working prototype. We chucked it up there, polished it, cleaned it up a bit, make sure it works on mobile, and then we kind of just let it go. And we've had some great people play it, but we've also had a few people try and hack the scoreboard, which I think is quite interesting. Like for a little Simon Says that you have no reason to try and hack it. A few people have tried, so hopefully I'm not encouraging people to hack it.
There is an idea, isn't there? Like, I'm sure you guys have already had it, but there is an idea there, which is at the end of every year, like whichever client of yours gets the highest score, gets the Christmas hamper or something like that, right? There's things like that that you need to consider.
And we've done that at previous companies, but I'm not joking with the amount of people that do try and cheat the game. We've done games for charity and said, whoever wins the most, we'll donate £100 to charity, and people are still trying to hack it, and as like a bit of pride, I guess. But it's it's an interesting one. It's a fine balance.
Are they from the UK? Like, I mean, you must get stats on like where those attempts are from, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
they seem to be UK based people. Yeah, we can't narrow it down that much because we don't kind of you don't have to sign in or do anything to play. It's kind of anonymous, but we get regions and stuff. So it is interesting to see. I think people just like a bit of a challenge, really, and try and hack it for fun. But yeah, it's exciting. It keeps us on our toes for our little Simon Says game.
Yeah, absolutely. Correct me if I'm wrong. You came through the Launchpad program here at the DMC. And what was that like for you? I've spoken to quite a few people on the podcast who've either had some early assistance and support from Launchpad or are involved in it still now. So, what was that like for you?
Yeah, so I guess when we were starting Rolley, and again, I'll be honest, my business knowledge wasn't great. I was a good developer. I knew what I needed to do there, but I didn't kind of know the business side. So I kind of very early on realised, if there's support out there, I want to get it, and I want to find out what I don't know, and then go on to learn as much as I can about it. So we reached out to Launchpad, and it's been great, really. They've sat down with us whenever we've needed it. They've given us detailed marketing plans of what we can do, and if there's funding available, they let us know so we can reach out to, for an example, a HR specialist. We reached out because when we took on our first employee, a PAYE employee, we needed a contract in place and stuff like that. So we
policies
exactly grievance policies, which as an employee I always just take for granted, but as a business owner you kind of need them, and you need to set up your pension scheme and all this sort of stuff that naively I just didn't even think about. But with the kind of funded support and the advice and stuff like that, it made it a lot easier than me kind of just on my own looking through Google and figuring out what I needed to do. So I would definitely recommend Launchpad to anyone that is thinking about starting a business. Just get in touch with them. They have a chat with you, and they let you know what you can do, what you can expect from it. And I would recommend.
And let's be clear, it is a council funded. It's a council run program, but that doesn't mean that they don't know what they're talking about, right? You know, they've got a lot of experience in terms of multiple companies coming through the program, many thousands of companies coming through the program, and helping them in all sorts of different areas of markets and where they work and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And just on like, they put on like bespoke meetings and, you know, like events where you can learn about specialist topics, and even just going to those and networking with other business owners that are in a very, very similar position was a great experience for me. And it just kind of showed me how important networking is, growing your network, just chatting to people, and you just never know who you're going to end up doing business with if you're just chatting to people, do you? So yeah, that was fantastic as well. I would recommend those networking events.
Good stuff. So coming on to your topic for tomorrow, Headless CMS, do you want to take us through what that is and how that can help like transform the outlook for your business?
Yeah, definitely. So Headless CMS is one of the things that we're most passionate about in Rolley. A headless CMS essentially is, well, a CMS is a content management system. People might have heard of WordPress, and I don't pick on WordPress for any reason. It's just the one that most people tend to have heard of. So WordPress is more of a traditional content management system, a CMS, and we now use headless CMSs, which basically mean that the content layer is split up from the presentation layer. And what that basically allows you to do is you can basically get that content in any different application you want, because there's so many different ways to kind of view data at the minute, isn't there? There's apps, there's games, there's AR, there's VR, there's you name it, there's smartwatches and stuff like this, and you need to put your data into these applications. So when you've got more of a traditional content management system, it's kind of, you know, like patching on top of it and stuff
it's
like
quite
that.
Prescriptive, right?
Yes.
You know, you force down a route that is not necessarily the best for your business and doesn't put your business in the best light in terms of the formats and the platforms you want to present on, right?
Yeah, whereas these headless CMSs, they're built from the ground up to use very traditional standards, and they just provide you your data in a JSON format, so you can kind of take that in whatever application you want, use it, and then you can obviously update it, read from it, you know, use the traditional CRUD sort of stuff, the create, read, update and delete, as you would expect in any application. So that's a system that I'm really passionate about, because allowing them just to focus on that data also means they can do some really cool stuff. So you can kind of visualize that data really easy in these sort of applications. So you can create charts, dashboards and stuff just from within one application. But then also you can do the automation that we're really, really keen on. Is like, you can, for example, if you've got an inquiry collection in your headless CMS, you can say on a new inquiry, if they've done an inquiry about product A, you can then go, right, I want to send a very bespoke email about product A, or if they've done product B, I want to send them that email, and you can automate it really easily, do some really, really personalized stuff, which I think in the past was kind of hard to do. You definitely need to bring in developers to do this and stuff like that.
Scary for a lot of people as well, you know, like as we've already touched on there's when you're not familiar with a process about your business. So, you know, you might be the best salesman, or you might be the best maker of watches or something like that. Do you know what I mean? I'm clutching, but but when it's out of your comfort zone, you spend hours extra making sure you've got it right, making sure you understand what it is that you're doing and all of that sort of stuff. And once you've done it a few times, then it all becomes second nature, and you rinse it out, right? But those first few times, it's that like barrier to entry that is so high, and that's what we're talking about here, right? Is reducing that barrier to being able to be more responsive to your customers' needs.
Yeah, definitely. And that, like you said, that automation, because you can do things 20 times and you might do it perfectly every time, but if on the 21st you make a mistake and maybe you put the wrong customer's email address in or something, it loses a lot of faith, doesn't it? So anything you can automate for your business, one, it not only saves you time, but two, I think it kind of helps you gain confidence in what you can do and you can build on it. And one of the good things about headless CMSs is that they can scale with your business. If you just want to have inquiries in your headless CMS, just go ahead and do that, and then you think, actually, another data collection would be great in there, and you know, you can just keep growing and growing your data, and it kind of scales with your business as it grows. But I do think that the amount of automation that you can achieve with these sort of solutions just out of the box would probably blow a lot of people's minds. They probably think, oh, I can't do that, that's too hard, especially for a non-technical person. But no, you can, and it's quite easy to do, really.
Yeah, and there's a lot of kind of hand-holding as well, right? You know, because the success of your product out of the CMS is the success of the CMS as well,
exactly.
right? You know, it's all stuff that they can then use as marketing material to say, look, these guys did it really quickly, really easily. This is how you can kind of transform your business operations in a very short amount of time, and this is the tangible benefit and result of that.
Yeah, definitely. You can do. Don't get me wrong. You can start as small as you want, but you can scale to as big as you can scale as big as you want. So we built some really, really complicated products in these headless CMS because at the end of the day, we want to give the business owners the powers to see their own data. Like, we don't want to hide it away, and you're like, oh, I can't really see my data. They need to be able to see it as well because it's their data.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've got a better understanding of how they want to use it than we have.
It means you're no longer the gatekeeper as
Yes.
well, right? So fundamentally, your client has more control and more autonomy to be able to make the changes that they need in a responsive way, and that makes them more likely to come back to you for the more tricky stuff, or for the more involved stuff, or even just actually for consultancy on like how can we do this stuff.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what we want to try and help. Like, we want you to be in control of your data. If you then want to take that data and put it into an AR application, a VR application, a game, just a portal, that's where we can then help build the bespoke sort of software on top of the headless CMS, rather than kind of having these data silos, you know, like a bit of data's over here, a bit of data's over here, and they don't communicate. You might run out, this might be outdated, and some people might only update this one. So if you've got one source of truth in your headless CMS and all your applications are kind of interacting with it, that's a really, really good position for you and your business to be in.
We kind of touched on it there in terms of scale as well, but like the next benefit is, like, you know, you're looking a few years down the line where if you wanted to rebrand or if you wanted to do some other kind of look and feel changes, that doesn't mean that you've then got to change out the whole back end, right? You know, you can maintain that headless element, which has got all of the same data, all of the same endpoints, but actually then you can completely refresh and revamp your front end without having to necessarily worry about paying for changing all of it.
Exactly that. I mean, again, I don't mean to pick WordPress out for any reason, but you know, if you've got one WordPress application and you're trying to change the front end, it's kind of hard to do. But with a headless CMS, you could have a completely separate staging environment here, still loading the same data if you want to. Obviously, you can have different ones if you need to, but it's loading the same data in, but you're not even touching your live site. Whereas on WordPress, you kind of have to bodge around your live site, and then it's like, oh no, I don't want to make that live yet and that live. So you can really isolate your different environments, make sure they're right, and then promote them when you need to. You can
and just
really
be coordinated about that as well. Like if you've got a big launch that you want to do or something like that, then you can do it all in one go and like kind of roll it out across all of your distribution platforms.
Yeah, definitely. It's an exciting technology, and we're just happy to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. How, like, so I mean, you know, this is going to be a question that anyone who runs a technology business gets asked, so I'm going to ask it. AI, how does that affect your business and your customers?
Yeah, so we like to see AI as a tool rather than like a solution in itself. Like, we use AI in our code editors, and it kind of can understand the code. It can do little bits of like, oh, I think you want to type this and you speed it up. But there is a lot of kind of people out there that just go on to ChatGPT and say, make me a website, and that's fine and it does work. But then it's when you actually want to make tweaks to that website, it might not be able to help you. It doesn't understand all of the context of what you're trying to achieve. That's kind of where the sort of technology limits are at the minute for AI, building websites, building on top of it. It can kind of do a job, kind of works, not often does work. So what we like to do is have it as a tool. You know, things like, for example, say you've got an inquiry form, we might like to pass that through a sentiment analysis, which will then come back and say, actually, this inquiry is positive, in which case, maybe send that to my boss to say that's a positive one. But if it's a negative one, and you get a negative sentiment, then send it to me so I can rectify it, and then hopefully I'll get a positive one, and I'll send that to my boss. So we like to use the sort of AI as tools to build other applications, rather than just say, right, AI, I want you to build me this little website in this way. So that kind of answer what you meant,
absolutely. I mean, it's interesting to get different viewpoints, and also, like, there's a difference, like you say, there's a difference between using AI tools internally to become more efficient as a business, and then using AI or building AI into the products that you build for your customers, and how that can then help them become more efficient as a business. And they're two very different things, and it's just interesting to see or to understand where people are in terms of their maturity, I guess, into for using it.
I mean, they've grown so much over just the last couple of years, haven't they? But we just see them as tools that we need to use. Some of the stuff they can do, it take us years and years to do. So leverage it where you can and build on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, genuinely, I don't think we're going to become prompt engineers, like solely prompt engineers.
I hope not.
There's still some time to go, and like you say, it's about that context as well. There's still. And like you say, they're getting better, but there's still circumstances where you can ask a GPT or a Gemini or something like that. You can ask it a series of questions, and it will come back with either stuff that it's made up, stuff that is just plain wrong, or or anything in between that, right?
I don't think it really gives you like a confidence score, does it?
No.
I think that's probably what it needs to introduce, to say, look, I've answered this, but actually these are my sources and I'm not quite sure, because like you say, people do just go, right, that must be true, it's from ChatGPT, I'll chuck that in my PowerPoint, and you're actually like, be a bit careful with that.
This is going to get into the nuts and bolts, and I don't know whether I'll make it into the actual interview, but like I've got there's something, certainly on a Mac, there's something that Outlook can't do, and that is archive or delete unread emails that are older than a certain amount of time. So you can't put in a rule that is like, after 30 days, if it's unread, bin it. But ask any GPT or a prompt engine or anything like that, ask any of them, and they will try their hardest to convince you that it's possible. And also, actually, in certain circumstances, I've had it tell me to create a rule that would delete all of the emails in my inbox. So there's just stuff like that you've got to be really careful about just taking on face value. And I think that it's going to be more relevant for inexperienced programmers who are just doing the thing. I was at a cybersecurity event many years ago now, but it was like, I think the it's still valid, is the most frequent introduction of vulnerabilities to code that this company had seen, or that actually I think NIST was doing the analysis, was because people put in a search term in Google and say, how do I do this thing, and then went with one of the first 2 or 3 answers in terms of the solution. And and I guess bad actors would regularly try and bump the insecure answer up to the top of the list, so that then people would just copy and paste vulnerabilities into their code. And I think that's something that AI needs to be aware of, or you need to be aware of when you're just taking an answer straight from AI, because it's taking stuff straight from the internet, right?
It is, it's frequently like looking at Stack Overflow, which is a developer.
But let's be clear, I don't think I would be able. I certainly wouldn't be able to do my job without Stack Overflow. But like,
but as a senior person, you can then kind of take it, like, go, actually, that's the issue and stuff. Whereas, like you touched on, the juniors would kind of go, oh, that's worked for them, it must work for me, and kind of go, there we go. Whereas so that's why I like to say, like I said before, it is a tool, use it, but then don't trust it, and then go through it like with go through it and find out any vulnerabilities you can, and take it, and then ultimately test it. Just test the hell out of it, just because you need to.
Yeah, and not just you as well. Like that's where another like benefit of having multiple people in your organisation is that you can throw it at other people, and they will exercise it in ways that you never thought you would.
That's one thing that always surprises me. Even like I say, after 10 years of doing this, I think once I give users the ability to test their own applications, I'll see them do stuff that I just wasn't expecting. I was like, how have you even got there? You shouldn't be able to do that. It's always interesting to do user testing, isn't it? On a large scale, at least.
I mean, it's a rubbish joke, but it's something that I do always say because I'm a dad. The most perfect software is one that has no users, right? Because you're never going to find any bugs.
Exactly. No, I love that. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure our clients would love that. But
no. I mean, I'm not happy for people to pay me money for not use a product. Fundamentally, I guess it's sort of counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Or counterproductive, should I say?
It is.
Nice. So there's a question that I always have to ask as part of the podcast, and so I don't know if you've already got an answer prepped or if you even knew that there was a standard question. But that question is, Matt, what's your ultimate sandwich?
Yeah, so I have done a bit of research. I've watched a few other podcasts. So I'm coming with a kind of an answer that I'm aware of. But essentially, my ultimate sandwich is kind of a simple one. It's a bit like me. I like to keep things as simple as I can. So what I like to do is, if I'm going to treat myself, I'll go to M&S, get one of the freshest baguettes I can find, get some nice Lurpak, just put it on quite thick, and then just get something like ham hock. I've only recently discovered ham hock. I don't know how, I don't know where it's come from, but for me it's new. So I do that. I just put a bit of ham hock on it as well, and that's it. I don't really do much more. Nice. I think between the fresh bread, the best butter, and the nice meat, I think that's enough for me. And I just do that. Keep it as simple as I can, and off I go.
So there's some quite controversial things in there. Why is Lurpak the best butter?
Oh, I don't. It's what my grandma always used to have. It kind of reminds me of a little bit of my grandma.
Do you go with spreadable, or is it?
I do go spreadable. I do. Is it reduced salt as well? Because I need to watch my cholesterol now. I'm getting older. That's what the doctor tells me. So it's not the full fat stuff that's the best, but it's good enough.
Maybe that's a treat once every couple of months, right?
Yeah, hopefully, and then that's it really. So it's very simple.
What's your test for the freshest baguette? Like, do you go with ones that are at the back or at the front, or do you give them a squeeze, or what?
So I go to the back just because a few friends used to work in supermarkets and said we always load from the back. So I get the one furthest back I can. I'll pull it out. I will give it a squeeze. Obviously through the wrapper. I won't take it out and inspect it. Yeah, they kick me out for that. So I don't do that. Give it a nice squeeze. If it's a little bit warm, that's even better.
Absolutely.
And then that's it really. So sorry, it's not the most exciting sandwich, but I could eat them for days and days.
Do you not are you ever tempted to put anything like mustard in or anything like that?
So this is probably where I'm a little bit strange. I don't really like sauces. Even though, and everyone's going to say it, even though I'm from Rotherham, from South Yorkshire, I don't like gravy and stuff like that. So I just don't like sauces at all. So plain are the better for me. Butter's at my limit, I guess.
That's the sauciest thing you can put in a salad.
Essentially,
or on anything.
It is, yes. So I don't really put mustard, ketchup, don't like any of those. I might have a little bit of barbecue, if I'm having chips, I might have a little bit of barbecue on the sides, but then I'm kind of in control of the sauce. It's not over the top and stuff like that. So
that's interesting. How about, do you just have Yorkshire puddings dry then?
Yes, I do. I have my roast dinner dry. I do, yeah.
Animal.
I know. It's probably not one for the podcast, but essentially it's when I was about 5 or 6, I was this is what Rotherham schools were like back then. So I was at a school dinner. I used to love gravy. 5 or 6, I went in. It was a Christmas lunch. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a Christmas lunch. I went in, got my serve. She said, "Do you want gravy?" I said, "Yes." She poured a bit on, and then there was like a really big, thick, dirty hair just kind of dripping out of the container. And rather than kind of scoop it out like I thought she would, she kind of just plopped it onto my lunch, and it's kind of scarred me ever since. So
that's no good, man.
If that dinner lady's watching, you've ruined my gravy experience and sauces in general. So
it's amazing the formative experiences and how they can completely change the trajectory of your life.
It's crazy, isn't it? And I know it's silly. It's kind of just in my head. used to like
Yeah,
gravy, but it's just I just don't want it maybe to taint it, so I just said no sauces and I'll keep it dry.
But that's why, you know, food is such a psychological thing as well, isn't it? Like, it's not just sustenance, you know, it's not just like I'm eating to survive, because otherwise we'd all just be eating fuel.
Exactly, yeah. And I do love my food as well, which is strange, but yeah, I do, so it is interesting to me trying to everyone.
Good stuff. That's it for this podcast. Matt's going to be doing the talk for the event tomorrow, our first lunch and learn as part of the startup meetup. So it'll be interesting to see how that grows and take that forward. So other than that, the regular meetups are every second Thursday of the month at the DMC, and I'll be putting links in the description below to cover off where they are or when they're going to be. And other than that, it's just left to say thank you very much, Matt.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.